Welcome everyone, I'm the Depressed Eeyore, and this is Blood Bowl Chaos Edition. So, it looks like so far that the Blood Bowl is winning on the vote, so I'm going to go ahead and get things started. I'm going to be doing a campaign on single player, and just trying to go through that. It'll probably run the risk of getting a little, it'll eventually kind of go on and on towards the end, but I'll see about seeing it through, and you'll at least get to see a lot of different teams, so that won't be too bad. Chaos Edition pretty much has everything up to this date, up to this point of what's been added to Blood Bowl, which includes all the stuff like weather, star players, and a bunch of teams. So I'm gonna go ahead and just load one of my old games. Story campaigns. We'll call this. Well, I'll load that. Yeah, Puppy Namicon. All right, this is a necromantic team, so they're all undeads and stuff. But I wanted to go here so I can at least pull up my team roster and it kind of shows stuff. For those who don't know what Blood Bowl is, I'm probably going to include a link that'll probably explain it a lot better, but it's a tabletop game based in the Warhammer setting where instead of war, they are just going to play football and still kill each other. There's a lot of fun stuff in this game, and I just messed that up right there. There we go. The game is very luck-based. Those who don't say... The funny part is people will be like, this game is so luck-based, and then they'll respond, no it's not, it's just you gotta learn how to manage your luck. So the strategy of the game is to manage your luck, which means it is luck-based. Theoretically, it is possible to not be, no matter how good of a coach you are, you could just possibly fail a match simply because you roll so poorly that you can't pass any checks. That doesn't happen too often, but I have seen tournament matches where like literally one side just rolls so badly compared to the other side, it becomes very one-sided. But that's kind of part of the fun of the game. Not to really play as like a competition, but just to have fun and see what ridiculous stuff happens, like trying to run that extra space and you fail the check and you slip and fall and die. Like literally that's happened. In fact, it's happened way too often in this particular game. The random number generator in this game is wonky at best, but supposedly it's random, I guess. Anyway, there's a lot of things to go over, so I'll just kind of summarize a little bit. So you got a bunch of players. There's 4 stats for the players. There's movement, meaning how many spaces you can move. That's how many spaces you can move safely, and then you can also move 2 extra spaces by doing go for it. And every space you do for that go for it, you have to roll a d6, and if you roll a 1, you slip and fall. There are ways to get around that. There are skills that will allow you to re-roll it, as well as just using a re-roll, which I'll explain that in a second. The second stat is strength. Strength is probably one of the most important stats for practically all, because Blood Bowl is a very contact-heavy sport, so the higher your strength is, the easier it is to block other people, as well as to defend yourself from blocking. If you try to block someone at equal strength, you get to roll a 6-sided die, which has little special symbols on it. The outcomes vary from knocking yourself over, knocking both players down, making the defender fall over, making the defender stumble, which is a lighter form, and then there's two arrows, which is just pushes the opponent backwards. Agility is all about passing, picking up the ball, dodging out of tackle zones, and so forth. You need at least one player that has at least a 3 or higher if you just want to be able to function and actually score touchdowns usually. Because yeah, you need to at least be able to pick up the ball. The last part is armor value. Armor value is rolled whenever you essentially get knocked over or get knocked out of bounds. What happens is it rolls a 2d6, and adds them together. If it's higher than the armor value, it breaks armor, and when it breaks armor, it rolls a injury check, which varies from either being stunned, which means you just stay down for an extra turn, to complete KO, being knocked out, which will take you off the pitch. And then there's a bunch of injuries. If you get an injury, you'll go through the injury tables, and there's a variety of injuries, like just badly hurt, where nothing happens, you're just taken out of the game, to death. where you lose that player permanently. So there you go. And oh yeah, there is one other thing I wish to point out. You'll also see this thing called the available skills categories. There are 5 different types of skills in this game. There are strength, general, agility, passing, and mutation. Most players will not be able to use mutations unless they start with them. Like for example, claw is a mutation, but the reason the werewolf starts with it is obviously because werewolves have claws, but they can't learn any other mutations. Things that are listed as normal means whenever you level up, you'll be able to learn anything from those sections without any issue. The ones that are marked as double means you can't learn a skill from there unless you roll a double when you do your level up check. Whenever you level up, you roll 2d6 and you add them together. If you ever have a double, like if you have 2 1s, 2 2s, etc., you'll be able to do this thing, or you could pick a skill from these other 2 skill trees. Or skill list, rather, not trees. Also, if you roll really high, like 12s, 10 through 12, you will be able to get the option to increase your stats. Like if you roll a 12, you have an option to increase your strength, which is a very important thing. So yeah, as you can see, certain players and positions, every team has their own positions in them. This one has zombie, whites, flesh golems, ghouls, and werewolves, all with their own little gimmicks. They all have their own different starting skills, or they may not start with any skills at all. They also have different stats. Like ghouls go slower, they have less armor, but they are generally more agile, sort of. They have they at least start out with dodge. That's about it I can really explain. Yeah, it's just each player has their own things. I'll try to include a link that shows all the teams, but I'll go ahead and explain them as I list them off. But if you want to see how the game's played, I suggest go ahead and just look up another video, because I'm not going to do a tutorial for it, because it's just not going to work. Well, actually, why not? We'll do a tutorial. Alright, it looks like I'm up against the Severed Heads, which is an orc team. This is an orc team. Their gimmick is they hit all their players except for their throwers, and their goblins have really high armor. They also start out with, they can get up to 4 black orcs, which are strength 4 players, which are good. They also have really good positions. They also have 4 blitzers. Blitzers are the general gimmick about blitzers is they most of the time will move an extra space compared to your normal players, and they usually start out with block. Your linemen are pretty much your fodder. Then you just got other things. The goblins are kind of just special. In fact, I don't even know why he has a goblin, because he doesn't have a troll. This team also can get trolls, which are big guys. Big guys generally have 5 strength or higher, and have pretty neat abilities. The only bad part is they all have a negative trait that can really really hinder them, as well as they'll also be loners most of the time, which means you can't reroll. Speaking of rerolls, you have these other abilities for your team. You can get rerolls. Team rerolls allow you to spend a reroll to reroll any dice roll. You can only do this once per turn, so you gotta make it count. You can only reroll one skill once. So if you have an ability like dodge, which allows you to reroll a dodge check, and you use your dodge ability, you will not be able to if both those rolls fail, you will not be able to use a reroll for it. You also get apothecaries or necromancers, depending on your team. Since I don't have apothecaries, I only get necromancers. All that does is allow my players to regenerate. That's it. Cheerleaders influence various events. There's a lot of events in this. There's assistant coaches, which also influence various events, and then there's fan factor, which decides how big your audience is when you start the match, as well as some other events that trigger. So let's go ahead and just prepare for a match, and we'll just get this going. 0 gold, opponent. Okay, I have a higher team value than the opponent, so they get some extra gold. This is a way to balance the game, so if you play as a low-level team, and you go up against a high-level team, you won't get completely slaughtered. And my cat is just going nuts. Anyway, I don't have any inducements this time, so it just skips over. And it looks like, one moment. Sorry about that. My cat's just been whining today. Anyway, what they did was they got some money, and then they just spent extra money to buy a star player. Star players are temporary, you can buy mercenaries with your inducement money to get an extra player. Star players are just really good mercenaries, pretty much. They usually have some neat abilities and good stats, and they all have loner, which is a bad thing. What loner does is it can prevent your reroll from activating, which is annoying. Anyway, let's just start the match, because I'm pretty sure you guys are confused already. So yeah, Puppy Nomicon. I named it because it has 2 werewolves. I actually like the necromantic team because of the werewolves. They're pretty fun to use. Let's see, they got 2 rerolls, 3 cheerleaders, apothecary, and all I got is 3 rerolls. I don't know if I'll do well in this match or not. I mean, the AI is not that bright, but I am dealing with 4 strength 4 characters, and I only have 2 strength 4 characters in this team. It's not all about strength in this game, because there are teams that have a lot of strength, but they also have other penalties and issues. So hopefully this goes a little bit faster. I might just cut it off and let it load, finish loading. I don't know. Or I'll just keep talking. But yeah, let's just do I'll show off a match, maybe not an entire one, but I'll show off part of one. There we go. Sorry for the frame rate. It looks like we got a decent crowd. I won't always show this. You can skip it. Most players do. Oh yeah, there's commentators as well.
Which, if it lives up to expectations, should be a real humdinger.
Okay.
Hi Bob. Hi everyone. My answer would be like every Blood Bowl match. Blood, sweat, tears, a bull, apothecaries on standby. What more could you ask for?
There's little or no way out for this team. The players are going to have to play out of their skins just to stand still.
Sorry, I was listening to the 2 commentators. It's pretty much the 2 commentators is an ogre and a vampire, and they just say their usual thing. They tend to repeat themselves very often. Anyway, the first thing I was given the option to either receive or kick off. Receiving means you're going to be on offense and trying to get the touchdown. If you're kicking off, you're kicking the ball to them. Anyway, I'm going to try to position my people as much as possible, and hopefully my frame rate will actually hold and I stop screwing things up. There we go. Get that there. Get that there. Yes, my formation sucks. In fact, why is it like that? Do it like that. That's better. Like I said, I'm not very good at this game, but I'm good enough to at least go up against the AI. Alright, there's my positions. I'm ready. I'm going to go ahead and click accept, and let's get this started.
The ball goes skywards, and the match is on.
Okay, this is the kickoff table. Events will happen. At the start of the match, will happen at the beginning of the game is they'll decide the weather, which right now is just clear weather. And then every time you kick off, there's going to be a kickoff table. Right now it's brilliant coaching, and it looks like the Sever Heads gets a lot better than I did, so they get the another reroll. So they have 4 rerolls. Wow, how do they have 4? Anyway. Oh, they also have a star player. This is the star player here. He's got Loner, as I mentioned before. He also has a secret weapon, which is a bomb. He throws bombs. And he's pretty decent at it, I guess. Yeah, he's accurate. So he's got a bunch of skills. Alright, this is my block, dodge, and guard ghoul. For most cases, you would generally want to have block and dodge on most of your characters, because it's generally just better. It allows your guys to actually stand up.
He's recovered the ball.
Also, I really screwed up. I should have put more of my guys on the line so I can knock these guys over. Oh well. Stuff happens. What do you got? Okay, you got block. There's a goblin over there. I should have went on that side. Oh well. Yeah, they have a lot of guard. I'm probably dead. What guard does is allows you to cover multiple players at the same time instead of just one. Once per turn, you can do something called a blitz, which allows you to move and block at the same time. Otherwise, you can't do both.
The first necromantic teams started to appear in the minor circuits, Bob?
Oh yeah, that sure was fun, Jim.
Especially when they fielded skeletons and werewolves at the same time, Bob.
I remember the werewolves.
Their movement isn't fantastic, so
Much to the delight
just
of
move
the
there.
fans.
Wow, that's actually not... Can I... Usually you don't want to do one die blocks, that's not smart. Okay, knocked him over.
Have a nice sleep.
Little baby gets his
Getting
milk
up
in
takes
and having a little
an
nap.
action. It also reduces your movement for that turn. So it's not too bad. I'm just gonna move up here. What do you got? You got Mighty Blow? Okay. And that's gonna have to be it for now. Okay, got pushed away. And I got injured.
That's what happens when a pro crosses an amateur.
Yes.
So yeah, that happened. So the injury was missed next game, but I regenerated. So like a zombie just gets back up and just goes off the pitch. So I'll be able to use him again next drive. That person blitzed, but didn't succeed. I'm really worried about the bomber. Those things are freaky. They just throw... There's a goblin team, and they will just blow you up like crazy.
We can thank the necromantic.
Also, I kind of just skipped over the
circle
all the
for
block dice
introducing the
stuff, so I'll
sport
go
to
ahead
so
and go
many
through that real quick.
necromancers.
That's true, Jim. Blood Bowl would surely be empty without
Okay,
howling werewolves.
so I got my werewolf here. His gimmick is he moves real fast, and he has claws, which can help pierce armor. He can regenerate, and he has frenzy, which allows him to block twice, which can be good or bad depending on how you look at things. But I don't want to do that. I'm gonna go ahead and attack with this guy. Alright, so because I have higher strength, I have strength 4 versus a strength 2. That means I get to roll 2 dice, and I get to pick which one I want. This one will make the person just be pushed back. This one will push them back and knock them down. So I'm gonna go ahead and knock them down. And I get to choose to follow, which means I can follow.
Looks like the
Just
star
makes me
player
move up a
has taken
space.
sudden interest in the state of the pitch.
Well, someone will be taking a sudden interest in his head.
Alright, so what
If
we
he
need...
doesn't come round pretty quickly.
Okay, I think I know what I want to do. I want to move here. Like this. This is probably not a smart idea, but I'm going to do it anyway. Push. And push. Off the pitch you go. When you knock a player off the pitch, they have a it's an automatic injury roll, which in this case they only got stunned, but it permanently it takes them off the pitch for that drive. And I have like nobody around, so I'm just gonna go ahead and thin out their numbers further.
Back in the old days, Bob.
A very interesting story indeed.
Awesome, injured and dead.
The head coach of the Deadskins.
Let's see, but I killed him, but he used his one apothecary to re-roll the injury roll, and now it's just badly hurt. If you use an apothecary and you manage to reduce it to badly hurt, they are automatically healed and they just get taken off the pitch. So there you go, some payback. Payback's always wonderful. Alright, so we don't have much left. I'm gonna go ahead and, what's this, a blitzer? Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and cover you. But yeah, we cleared out that side, but we still have to deal with the reinforcements coming. Okay, this is a both down. What both down does is it knocks down both players. It will also cause a turnover, which means it will go to the other person's team. If you fail a roll, pretty much, it's going to be a turnover, which means you cannot take any more actions with your team, with your players, and the other team gets to act. So you got to be that's where the risk comes in. You have to make sure you make safe rolls. Now this is fine for me because I had the skill called block. When block happens, it just means I don't get knocked over when I do both down. But he doesn't have block, so I just go ahead and do block.
And don't forget, children,
And there he goes.
don't try and do this at home. Remember, these are seasoned professionals.
Well, one of them is
This
anyway.
anyway. Alright. This guy doesn't have dodge, unfortunately. So I'm just gonna go around.
Did you hear that the Orchard Raiders lost their last
These
match
extra
against
little,
the Dancers?
Dancers? You mean
as you can
dwarf?
see, there's these squares that have dice on them. Those are the go for it rolls. That's going beyond my movement range. And you have to roll a d6, and as long as you don't roll a 1, you're fine. But if you roll a 1 and you don't have a reroll or something, you will slip and fall. So I'm just going to save my rerolls for right now. I can only use 1 reroll per turn, so I got to make them count because right now we haven't hit halftime. We're nowhere near halftime yet. Okay, he used a reroll. He got both down, so he used a reroll to avoid it. And awesome. Okay, he failed his dodge right there. If you have a player next to a tackle zone, like this guy, like this guy's next to these guys, that means he's within their tackle zones. If he moves out of that tackle zone, he has to make a dodge check, which is what this guy did. He failed it, fell over, and that is it. Okay, so I'm freaking terrified by those star players. I'm gonna keep hitting him. Yep. Awesome.
Ouch.
And he's still
The big
alive.
star has now got a big,
Big
wound
wound.
to go with his big reputation.
Alright, how am I gonna do this? Okay, push you back. Yes, push you back. And I'm gonna
Now,
send
Orcs
you
have
off the
always
pitch.
gone for a power man.
Oh,
And you
never
have to
mind. It
realize
didn't
that
send
it
you
was
off the
only
pitch.
recently that they discovered the
But I
purpose
knocked
of
him out
the
anyway,
ball.
so this is a knockout.
What a system.
You'll see this. It's
Hold the ground.
all it does is it takes him to the injury, to the KO box over here, and there's a chance after every drive to regain consciousness. If they don't regain consciousness, they stay out. So, yay. Okay, I want to go ahead and send you over here. Actually, I should have moved you there, but that's alright. There we go. Take you out.
I don't know if
As
we
you can see,
really
it pops
like
up the
that
skills that
comment.
you're using from time to
Liked it,
time.
but he
So,
certainly ate it.
if you're not sure what you're using. So I'm going to go ahead and move you up. You got dodge. Now, what I chose was Defender Stumbles. The way Defender Stumbles works is it works just like Defender Down, except if the opponent has dodge. If they have dodge, it becomes a pushback. So that's why it's a pushback. This is a red skull. You don't want these. It's attacker down. It means you fall over instead. And I'll keep pushing you over. And we'll just keep covering. The thing about these black orcs is they only have an agility 2, so they're not very reliable for dodging. So that's why I'm happy with them just staying where they are.
The first quality required of an orc
Oops,
is
I
to be
forgot
able to
about
hit
you.
hard, and if possible, not to think.
You can't move
The
that far though,
latter
because
is
you just got up.
considered enough
You lose, I think,
draw.
about 2 movement points from getting up or something, or like half of it, I don't remember. He used a dodge, that's why he failed the roll, his dodge triggered, which means he got a free reroll and succeeded. A little bit annoying, but that's okay. And my guy got knocked out.
Boom! In the face.
Alright.
Followed by a clean uppercut.
Keep
Well done.
that guy.
He may be a star, but he hit the deck just
Goes.
like any other player.
Alright. What do you got? You got a regeneration. Alright. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to move up. Oops. Sorry. Move up. To here. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it to this guy. You can do every turn you can do 1 pass and do 1 handoff. A handoff you have to be right next to the player, which is like I can do it to this guy. A handoff requires no pass roll, but it requires the person that is receiving it to make an agility check to catch it. So it's possible to fail a handoff. A pass is very similar, where you have to roll a pass check though, And if you succeed, it's an accurate pass, which will make it easier for your partner to the receiver to catch it. If you fail it, an inaccurate pass, and it'll scatter. And if you roll a 1 on the pass check, it's a fumble, and you'll just drop it where you are.
We don't see much
So
of the heroes of law
I'm gonna go ahead and
today.
pass it.
I don't know.
For any spectators who aren't aware, the heroes of law hope to show the world a better way.
Yeah,
by
I just rolled a
honest,
1.
strategic
The
play on the
actually, I rolled a perfect launch, but my the werewolf rolled a 1 on the catch, so I'm gonna go ahead and use the reroll. But also, how far you throw the ball decides the difficulty for the pass itself. Reroll the catch. Okay, I passed this. I used the reroll. Succeeded on the catch.
fly sticks to a
Thanks,
piece of
Jim, for that detailed analysis.
And alright, so I'm clear for a touchdown now. So we'll go ahead and do that. We'll just do a touchdown. Usually what you want to do for matches, especially if, like against orcs and stuff, is try to delay as long as possible, so they don't. The longer you delay, the less time they'll have a chance to score a touchdown themselves. But I'm just going to go ahead and score the touchdown. As you can see, I'm down to 2 rerolls out of 3. They've used 2 of their free rerolls they got for whatever. And yeah, that's kind of the gist of it. There's a lot to this game. I cannot possibly explain everything in one video. So let's just go ahead and score the touchdown.
It's not looking good for the defense. Touchdown! Well, it's the first.
There we go. Now, there's experience in this game. As I mentioned, your players do level up. Scoring a touchdown gives you 3 SPP, or star player points, for that player that scores the touchdown. When you pass, a successful pass, meaning you passed accurately and the receiver caught it, the person that passed the ball gets 1 SPP point. If you cause an injury, as long as it's not caused from knocking people out of the pitch, it gives you 2 SPP. So you kind of have to rely mostly on touchdowns and passes to get your SPP, and then the rest is kind of just luck with injuries. Alright, ejected by the referee. The thing about secret weapons is they're not technically allowed in Blood Bowl, but you can do things that, like, you can bribe the ref to make them look the other way. But if you don't have any bribes, they will only stay on the pitch for that one drive, and afterwards they get booted off the pitch permanently. There's also fouling in this game, where you can just kick someone while they're down, and if the ref catches you, you will get ejected and you're permanently out of the match. So it's a risk thing you gotta take, but it can give you an opportunity to take out a player that you don't want to get back up. Anyway, I think we're good for right now, so let me go ahead and cut this off, and I'll give you a brief summary of all the teams. So be right back. Alright, here we are on the list of teams. There are a bazillion teams. I will let you guys vote, or more or less just choose what team I should play. If I have a tie, I'll just roll a die and they'll decide. I may allow you guys to choose my level ups as well, just to make things a little bit more interesting, because eventually it's going to get to the point where the AI is just going to be a pushover anyway, so... Or, you know, with my luck, I might just screw up and die a lot. We'll see. I mean, I did lose... That team I showed you guys, the match before, I did lose a player already. But anyway, this is the list of players. Teams. I'll try to provide some links, and I'll show the gist, because all these teams have a variety of different positions as well, which kind of I'm just going to tell you the highlights of each team, really. So the Amazon team, they're all female. It's actually one of my favorite teams. They're pretty. I find them to be very versatile. But their gimmick is all their players have dodge, all of them, all their positions. So they all start out with dodge, which is a really powerful skill to start out with. Allows them to move out tackle zones and avoid being knocked over as badly. Their only bad part, and they also have very cheap positionals, to the point where you can pretty much buy all your positions and have your some spare linemen if you want to, or just buy all your positions and get a bunch of rerolls right off the bat. So it's a very good starting team in most cases. Their main disadvantage is all their players have only 6 movement, 3 strength, 3 agility, and 7 armor. Which means they're very average overall, but they have below average armor, which means they can get injured very easily if you're not careful. The other problem is, if you are a noob team and you're going up against, I don't know, a team that uses a lot of tackle, which ignores dodge, their main primary benefit is completely negated. You don't have to worry about that too much. There's only one team that will do that to you. So there you go. That's Amazon. Chaos. The Chaos team is pretty much beings made out of Chaos. They have only 3 positionals. They have a Minotaur, big guy, which is a pretty good big guy. He's the only thing bad about him is he has kind of low armor for a big guy, but he does have 5 strength. He does have horns, which allows him to charge, and he does have some other benefits. This is mainly a bashing team, but there's a lot of flexibility involved because Chaos has access to mutations for their skills, and they don't have to roll doubles on it, so they can just, whenever they want, they can just get a bunch of wacky little mutations, like get extra heads, tentacles, extra arms, big hands, claws, so forth. Their main disadvantage is they don't really start out with any skills, for the most part. They have Beastmen, and then they have these guys, these big guys here, that have 4 strength. So they're a pretty durable team, and they have high stats, but they don't have any skills at all, so they have a very rough time starting. Chaos Dwarf, this is one of the newest teams added to Blood Bowl, or, well, to this game of Blood Bowl anyway. Chaos Dwarfs are a mixture of hobgoblins, Chaos Dwarves, and centaurs. I can't really say much about them. Their centaurs are really fast-moving guys that have 4 strength. Their Chaos Dwarves have block. They're very similar to normal dwarves, and then the hobgoblins are kind of just fodder. And that's about it. They're kind of sorry, I can't really say much more about them. They are a new team. They're not really a team that I paid much attention to. Dark Elf. There are a lot of elf teams in this game. There's about 4 of them, I believe. The Dark Elf team is probably the very bashy out of all the elf teams. They all have 8 armor, except for I think all of them have 8 armor except for like the what are they called? Witch elves, I think, don't have 8 armor. But they got a bunch of they have high agility, average strength, all round. Their only weak point is they're not as bashy as other teams. Like I said, not all of them have 8 armor, and none of them have higher than 3 strength. But their main gimmick is they all have 4 agility, which makes it very easy for them to dodge out of stuff, make passes. Essentially, all of their in an elf team, every elf in that team it can be a potential passer or thrower, or sorry, passer or catcher. The other things is they also have access to assassins, which have the ability called stab, which allows you to bypass doing a block, and instead you just try to stab them, and if you breach their armor you automatically roll an injury, which is it can be useful. I've used stab before, and I've actually taken out big guys with it. It's pretty awesome. But if you fail it, nothing happens, so it has its uses. The next team is Elf. So the Elf team is the Wood Elves. Their main gimmick, they're very similar. All elf teams are very similar. They all have 4 agility. The elf team, I think their main gimmick is they have the main gimmicks between elf and high elf is they have kind of like a different setup for their blitzers and catchers and stuff like that. It's just they have access to different skills. So really all the elf teams are very similar. I'll try to include a link that has all the skill differences. I don't think I have my list somewhere. Actually, let me be right back. Sorry about that, I should have been more prepared. Anyway, elf team. Their main gimmick is their blitzers have 8 armor, which is kind of a good benefit. Also, compared to the Dark Elf team, they have faster catchers, and they have pretty fast blitzers. Actually, they have even blitzers, sorry. Their main gimmick is their blitzers are one of the best blitzers in the game. They get both block and sidestep, which sidestep's a really good skill because it decides where you instead of the blocker deciding where to push your player, you could decide where the player moves. Their catchers are also really good as well. They have catch and nerves of steel, which allows them to it essentially allows them to catch whenever you there are ways to get penalties for rolls for catching and stuff, mainly if you're inside tackle zones. Nerves of Steel allows you to ignore tackle zones when you're catching, so you can just ignore them. So let's go to the next team. This is kind of one of those goofy teams, the Goblin team. They're not really designed for winning games or winning tournaments. They're just fun. Their main gimmick is they have a lot of cheap players. They get half cost, I think, for buying bribes, and all their special most of their special positions are just people that are just guys with secret weapons, like bombardiers that throw bombs. You got loonies, which have chainsaws. You got fanatics, which have giant balls and chains that they spin around with. And they also get 2 trolls. And you can the main gimmick about goblins is they're stunty, which means you can, or sorry, they're right stuff, which allows them to be thrown by trolls, or they get eaten, you know, whichever. So it's possible to do a 1-turn touchdown with a goblin team by just giving the ball to a goblin nearby a troll, and then have the troll throw the goblin to their side of the pitch, and then just run the ball into the touchdown to the end zone. I've seen it happen. It's pretty hilarious. I've done it myself. It's not reliable in any sense, but it's goblin. There's a lot of these teams are kind of just fun little teams. They're not meant for winning, for the most part. Halflings. The main gimmick about halflings is they are extremely cheap, but they're slow, not strong at all. They're very much like goblins, except even slower. And they get 2 tree men. Their main gimmick is, I guess you can say, is they can throw. They're a little bit more reliable for throwing halflings. The tree men are, as at least they won't eat they won't accidentally eat their halfling. The only other thing they get is they get halfling chefs, which is an inducement for a lot cheaper. It only costs like 100,000 instead of 300,000. But it's really just a gimmick team. They're not very strong at all. If you take out their she-men, they're pretty much dead. they can't move fast enough to get to the other side of the pinch without being thrown. High elves. Yeah, look at them. Well, the high elves are, like I said, very similar to the other elf teams. They have a lot more armor compared to the regular elf team. The only people that don't have armor 8 in high elf teams is catchers. For those who don't know, 8 armor is average, 7 is below average. And if you want to know, halflings have 6 armor, so they don't survive very well. Their main thing is they get, their throwers have safe throw, which is essentially like Nerves of Steel, except for throwing. Alright, shuffling to the next thing. Humans. Pretty generic. They have average stats overall, but they're pretty. Most say they can be decent at bashing, but I think the reason they're kind of decent at bashing is because they get 4 blitzers, but they also get 4 catchers. They're very flexible on what they can do, but they're not super bashy. They're not super passy. They're very average, as what you expect from a human team. Their main gimmick is they do have a lot of positionals, very similar to an orc team. Gimri. Gimri are undead, but they're like ancient undead guys. Their main gimmick is they suck at carrying the ball. Their highest agility is 2 in the entire team. They do get a few players that can actually get automatic rerolls when trying to pick up a ball, but other than that, they're not really good at handling the ball at all. Their main gimmick is the fact that all their players have regeneration, and they have 4 mummies, and their mummies have 5 strength, and they do not have loner, so they're very much a bashing team. Corn Demons. Corn Demons are a new team, like brand new. Like they're not even in the tabletop game. This was added by this was a decision by Games Workshop to not include the Slad team for some reason, and instead just allowed a new team to be just made up for the Cyanide Blood Bowl. Their main gimmick is nearly all their players have Frenzy, which isn't actually that great. They're not a fantastic team, to be honest. I have played a little bit with them, but like I said, their main gimmick is Frenzy, and Frenzy is a very risky move, and they're also very average as far as their stats are concerned. In fact, they're probably even below average in some cases. Their big guy is a new big guy as well, which is the Bloodthirster. And the Bloodthirster has a lot of neat abilities, but it's like super expensive, like ridiculously expensive for a big guy. So yeah, that's Corn Demons. Lizardmen. Lizardmen are a neat little team. Their gimmick is they have very bashy big lizards like these guys that have 4 strength, and they have like Croxagores, which have 5 strength, but those guys only have 1 agility, which means they can't handle the ball worth anything. They're just very bashy, they're very durable. And then what they have for carrying the ball is little skinks, which are little lizard guys that have decent agility and dodge, but they die very easily. So the Lizardman revolves around keeping your skinks alive while bashing a hole in with your Sauruses, or using them to defend. Necromantic team, you saw that already. Main gimmick is most of the team has regeneration. You use a lot of undead, golems, and the difference between them, there's an undead team as well. The Necromantic teams, their main gimmick is instead of having mummies, they have flesh golems, and instead of having 4 ghouls, they have 2 ghouls and 2 werewolves. I prefer them over undead personally. The Norse team is kind of the opposite of the Amazon team. They are, well, I can't say exact opposites. Their gimmick is a lot of their team is very average, just like the Amazon team. They only have 7 armor, but every member of their team, except for like 1 position, I think, has block, which is pretty awesome. But like I said, they are very vulnerable to injuries. They also have access to big guys. They also have access to werewolves, which actually have 4 strength. So they're a lot more bashy than the Amazon team. Nurgle is it's essentially a chaos team, but they worship a different god, kind of the god of disease and stuff. So they get a lot of, they have the ability to cause Nurgle rot, which means if they ever kill a player on the pitch, they get an automatic free rotter, which is just a free little shock troop. Other than that, they get a lot of things like stinking clouds and stuff that makes it harder to pass or attack or tackle them and stuff like that. They also get the Beast of Nurgle, so they're like Chaos Team, but they have more emphasis towards not being hit. They're a very bashing team as well. They also have access to mutations, obviously. Ogres is another gimmick team where they don't really do very well. Ogres, their major gimmick is they have 6 ogres on the team, which means you have 6 strength 5 players, which is probably the most that any team can have. But they can't handle the ball, and they have they're not that smart. At times when you try to give them orders, they'll just sit there. So they're not really good for handling the ball. They're just designed to bash things. They can also throw teammates if they're small enough, which their other teammates are. They have snotlings, which are very, very small little goblins that have 1 strength. So yeah. The main gimmick for this team is to get snotlings to the other side of the pitch by just swarming it and then just bash everything with ogres. Orc team is kind of the major rivals of the human team. Mostly average stats, but they have really high armor. They also have access to the Black Orcs, which I showed before, that have 4 strength. They got a little bit of variety. They can actually hire goblins, and they can also hire trolls, so they can do the goblin trick too. So they, like I said, a lot of variety. Their main gimmick is they have a lot of positionals, very similar to the human team. They are a bit slower though. Skavens. Alright, Skavens are a bunch of rat people, and they have access to a rat ogre. They're very squishy. They're like an elf team, but they're not as reliable in a lot of ways. But they do have access to some decent abilities. Their main loss is the fact they only have 3 agility, despite being a mostly passy team. But their units are pretty cheap, and they also have if they roll a double when they level up, they can actually get mutations. So they have a chance of getting mutations. Undead, very similar to the Necromantic team. They have a lot of players that can do regeneration, and they have access to 2 mummies, which have 5 strength. They do seem a little bit more based around agility because they have 4 ghouls instead of 2. They also have access to skeletons rather than zombies if they choose to use skeletons for some odd reason. Besides that, we got a few more things. We got Underworld. Underworld, I don't actually have much about them. They seem to be like a mishmash of a lot of different... it's like a mix of Skaven and goblins. And that mixture actually causes an issue for some of the players, because they have like an ability called where if you try to pass to someone that's not if you have a Skaven player and you try to pass it to a Goblin player, they have to roll a check, and if they fail it, they refuse to pass it to that player. It's very weird. It's a very weird team. I don't know much about them. They're kind of obscure. They're not even in the list of players I have in front of me right now. but they're kind of an old team that only recently been. This is one of the newer teams that have been added to the Chaos Edition. Vampires. Vampires is another one of those teams you don't really want to win with, or you can't really win with. They have two positions. They have Thralls, which have average stats except for their armor, which is below average, but they're very cheap. And then Vampires. The Vampires have average movement, average armor, but they have 4 strength and 4 agility, which makes them good at bashing and good at using the ball. They also can regenerate. They can also use Hypnotic Gaze, which is an ability that allows them to hypnotize blockers so they can't do anything. It's very good for cage breaking. But they all vampires have the penalty called Bloodlust, where every time they take an action before they take an action, they have to roll a Bloodlust check. If they roll a 1 and they can't and you don't reroll it, and they will go into a frenzy and they have to feast on blood. The way they have to feast on blood is they have to go to a thrall on your team, and what they'll do is they'll bite that thrall, and it'll be an automatic injury check on that thrall, but it will not cause a turnover unless that guy was carrying the ball. So the good news is you can't kill anyone with this, but it's possible to cause injuries and KOs with this, and it can knock limits you. And if you fail to get to a thrall by the end of your action, you will drop the ball if you're carrying the ball, and then you'll just leave the pitch and go out into the crowds feasting for blood. So yeah, they're a very gimmicky team that can be very hard to use. And the final team is the Wood Elves. The Wood Elves are probably the most agility-based team there is. All of the players only have 7 armor, all of them have 4 agility, they're all very fast. They have probably the highest movements in the game, including their catchers. They do get one big guy, they can use a tree man, but for their main gimmick is they're just all about passing and dodging through stuff. It's very easy to get one-turn touchdowns with this team if you set it up right. They also get the War Dancers, which are these women here, that are pretty much one of the best blitzers in the game. They have access to block, dodge, and leap, but other than that, they're just a passing team. So, since I've thoroughly confused you guys, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys vote. I'll try to include links to show if you guys want to do a little bit more research, or just pick whatever team looks good to you. You probably noticed I skipped one team. I will not play Dwarves. No one will play. Dwarf team is probably like the most hated team in the game, because quite frankly, they're dumb. I hate them. The problem with the Dwarves is not the fact that they're bad, it's just the fact they're very uninteresting, I guess you can say. The gimmick about dwarves is they all have very decent armor, they all have thick skulls pretty much, which means they can resist being knocked out. They all have average strength, they're very slow because they're dwarves. But all of the players except for the runners, which aren't really that fast, get block, which isn't too bad, but it's very annoying most of the time. And also what makes it very annoying is they have blockers, and the blockers have block and tackle, which pretty much destroy Amazon teams and any teams that have dodging. So dwarf teams are designed to practically just stop everything, and that's pretty much all they're good for. And as far as like scoring touchdowns is concerned, they pretty much rely on just trying to cage up and just slowly steamroll everything. They're a very uninteresting team, no one likes them, they're very easy to use for the most part, because all you really have to do is just form a cage and steamroll. And whenever you get level ups, all you have to do is just put it into guard. And if you have an entire team filled with guard and guard blocking dwarves, it becomes a very boring game. There is one kind of fun thing they do get. They do get a death roller, which is a giant steamroller that they can take on the pitch. Of course, it's a secret weapon, so it does get booted off, but that's the only main funny thing they have. Everything else, I don't like dwarves. I'm not going to play them. It's a very boring team, and it would probably drive you guys insane just watching how it's played. But everything else is open. So pick whatever team you think I should play. I do have experience with some of them. Maybe half the teams I've maybe played a little bit of. So yeah, feel free to let me know, and I'll take whichever is voted the most, or I'll roll randomly if there's a tie. So I am Depressed Dior, and this was Blood Bowl Chaos Edition. I apologize for all the confusion. Like I said, I'll include some links, and feel free to click through them, and hopefully that'll help clear things up. Until then, I look forward to what team you guys pick. See you guys.